Hey, it's Dudley and Jason from Hogville.net's Arkansas Diamond Report. If you're looking for some great tacos and a place to call the hogs, Torchys is the place. We will air the Arkansas Diamond Report every Friday at 11:30 a.m. at the Rogers location until the end of the baseball season. Join us for some damn good tacos and baseball. Go Hogs! And everybody, welcome to the Arkansas Diamond Report with Dudley Dawson here at Torchys Tacos and Rogers. I'm your host, Jason Patterson. Thank you all for jumping on with us today. Also want to go over the taco of the month here at Torchys, which is the Tokyo Drifter. Today is the last day for this. So next month they'll have a new taco. Make sure to come by either this location or the location on MLK in Fayetteville and grab some damn good tacos. You got, the regionals this weekend, and you've got all sorts of opportunities to check out the bar. You got queso, chips, tacos. You can't go wrong with it. So make sure to kind of jump by Torchys either here in Rogers or Martin Luther King in Fayetteville, and they'll get you all set up. So let's bring him on. Dudley, how's it going, man?
Going good. It's true postseason now, true survive and advance. Looking forward to it. Hopefully the rain will hold off, at least get in that first game. Which is why one of the many reasons that Dave Van Horn likes to play that first game, even if it's not as good for the fans, some of them who can't get off work on Friday. But come on, guys, let your people off work on Friday.
Exactly. And also, if you guys are not able to go to the game, if it gets rained out, I got a special thing for y'all. I want to put out there. I was over at Rogers High School this morning. We all know that the tornado came through on Sunday, and Rogers High School Gymnasium is holding a temporary disaster relief shelter area for anybody that has needed a place to stay, needed some toiletries, anything that you might need at the house. They've got it. So I spoke with Dr. Jeff Perry. He's a Rogers superintendent, and also Karen Parrish. She's a school counselor for Crossroads, and she's in charge of distribution at Rogers. Tonight is going to be their last night that they can stay open for folks. After that, they've got to find somewhere else to go because this is just a temporary disaster area that they can hold folks. So they can't do it for long term. Donations that they need, laundry pods for folks that come in and do laundry. Toiletries is also a big one as well. They non-perishable food items, also fresh produce if you have it. If you're able to stop by and donate those things. They do have a lot of feminine products and stuff, but as far as toiletries go, they could always use those. They are going to be open until 6 for you to pick up any donations or drop off any donations or pick up by 6 p.m. today at RHS Gymnasium. They'll have folks there that'll unload it for you and all that stuff, or load it up for you if you need it. You can go catch a meal over there as well if you need to stop by for a hot meal, charge your phones, take a shower. They've got all those places set up for you. Also, if you want to go volunteer, you don't have to sign up if you don't want to. You can just show up, and they'll be able to take you in and say, hey, this is where we need you. If you do want to look for other things as far as donations and all that good stuff, you can go on to www.rogerschools.net, and they've got all of that listed for you so that you can go in there and take a look and see what they need. So
I'm going to take a minute to brag on you. You've done great work this week. I know that the storm knocked out power at your place of business, but instead of sitting around and doing nothing, you get out there with your chainsaw. You get out there and helped a lot of people. So I just wanted to give you credit and let people know that you put your actions where your words are.
I appreciate that. And I grew up here in Rogers, went to RHS, and graduated here in 2001. This place, it holds a special place in my heart. And when I see something like that happen, and I see family members and friends that are affected by this tornado that ripped through on Sunday, that's the first thing that came to my mind was, it's not what I could possibly help. It's just like, you just go do. That's it. You don't just sit there and look, you just react. And I think that's also a little bit of my, Air Force training that I've had too is that you don't look around, you just react. And so I also want to say a big shout out to the community here in Rogers and the surrounding area. They have been exceptional as far as donations go, and they've done a great job with facilitating things that folks need here in the Northwest Arkansas area: Decatur, Centerton, Bentonville, Rogers, anybody that was affected by it here in Northwest Arkansas. They've done a great job in making sure that these places that have distribution centers are getting the things that they need for the folks that need them the most.
Yeah, Petra and I having both, my wife and I both having grown up in Newport over there, or close to Newport, in Tornado Alley over there, have seen this happen a lot while we were growing up, and since we both moved away, and it's always devastation. You sometimes can't believe that people were able to survive when you see the devastation of buildings and homes and all that. And I know so many people have been without electricity. Some still are out, and those guys are out working hard trying to get that taken care of as well. So it's been a big group effort, but it's certainly, you hate for it to happen, but you enjoy seeing communities rally around each other when this does happen.
It does. So one of the things that is great about sports, it can take your mind off of what's going on at the moment, and it can separate you from reality and bring you into a spot where you don't have to worry about it for just a little while. It's just enough to take your attention off of it. That's what this Fayetteville Regional is going to do for some folks. And I need Arkansas to really show up and show out for this weekend, because if not, I've got some stats that's going to prove that it could possibly not happen this weekend.
Yeah, this is some great numbers that you came up with. So great, I'm disappointed I didn't come up with it. But I will be putting them on social media, or retweeting, re-Xing, whatever you call it these days. These things, and it truly show. I knew they had been struggling in several departments over the last 10 games. Certainly going 3-7 against some quality baseball teams, but still not playing up to their level. But you've got some stats from the past 25 games that are just mind-numbing, but kind of tells you the tale.
It does. And I know that Razorback fans have been extremely frustrated with how Arkansas has performed over these last 25 games. And, I hear folks that say, I don't know why. I can't put a finger on why it's happening. I just see that it's just bad baseball. And you don't expect to go down to Hoover and commit 5-7 errors on a weekend on just as they say, it was a 2 and barbecue for them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't usually see that happen with the Dave Van Horn team. Now, it has happened a couple of times, but not with the way that they've led into this part of the season, because the first half, it's almost like a tale of two seasons. You have one half of it was great, and then the other half of it was like, what's going on here? So this is what you were kind of referring to. So in the month of May, the ERA for the Razorback pitching staff is 6. Let's look at that for just a second. 6 runs a game. They were leading and if I'm not mistaken, Dudley, they're still leading the NCAA in ERA as a team. But in the month of May, they're giving up 6 runs. That is not what Dave Van Horn and Matt Hobbs had intended for this staff closing out the season.
Even more mind-numbing is when you know that Hagan has done his part to keep that ERA down. So the other pieces of the rotation and pitching staff have certainly not lived up to what they needed to do. Mason Molina has come in his last 2 relief stints, 5 scoreless innings, 1 hit in all of that. He's retired, I think, 16 of the 17 batters he's faced during that time. And so maybe he's right, and I know that was probably a reason that he was able to, because Dave Van Horn felt confident in going ahead and starting him this afternoon at 2:00 or whenever we get this game in.
Yep. And you have Brady Tygart. He's going to be out this weekend. You don't have him at your disposals for his services. Can you elaborate it a little bit more on kind of what's going on with Brady?
Well, there is an injury inside his shoulder, but not to his shoulder, if that makes any kind of medical sense. That's the way that Coach Van Horn explained it yesterday. They were going to do some more imaging and testing. Certainly, you hate to see that at this time of year, but it also brings up, probably why his control and the velocity has been down a little bit. I know that his parents, who by the way are having an anniversary today,
Happy
are
anniversary to them.
they were a little upset, as they should be, when somebody comes after your kid, for people going after him for the way he's pitched lately. And as usual, there's more to the story, and it has been that his shoulder, whatever is working there, there's been an impingement, something that's keeping him from doing what he wants to do and be the pitcher that he is. And I know they came on to social media and thanked people for thank people for realizing that it's not Brady's not just throwing bad baseball. There's been something going on, and the only thing I would say about that is that it appears Brady wasn't telling the coaching staff and the training staff about that, and that's one of the key things. Certainly, as he progresses into professional baseball, that you have got to be honest with them. Anything that's going wrong there, if you're hurting, you got to let people know. Now, there's a difference between hurting and injury, but you still have to let people know. And it doesn't sound like that was the case. And that's a guy trying to tough it out, be there for his team. But sometimes you've got to take everything into consideration.
You do. And, it was always better to catch something on the front end than the back end as it starts to manifest even more, because if you're able to catch it on the front end, and if you have to take a weekend off, kind of like what we saw with Mason do here a couple of weeks ago against Kentucky, you have to sit there and say, okay, I need to put my team before myself on this and say, hey, you know what? They need me later on. Let's get this thing worked out and we'll keep moving on. But at the same time, that gamer mentality is, I can get past this because I've gotten past other things before. Now this thing kind of starts to linger and hang on a little bit more. And now you see the result of that.
Toughness sometimes doesn't equate to smartness, and this may be one of the situations. The kid is really, pitched well, certainly at the start of the year. His ERA was lower than Hagen's for a little while there, maybe to midway through the season. Things haven't gone as well for him lately, but I think we know at least one of the reasons that he hasn't pitched up to his standards and maybe the expectations that coaches and fans say. You can always tell when Dave Van Horn is a little miffed about something. He seemed a little bit miffed about not, I guess there not being great communication about something hurting in there and continuing to go out, pitching 3 innings, 4 innings, too many walks. He still had a great inning down there, the first inning down at Hoover, but then came out the second inning and didn't get an out, gave up 3 runs, home run, hit a batter, which, as we talked about last week, hitting batters, you got to get away from that this weekend. That became a thing. Hit a batter, give up a 2-run home run, walk, 2-run home run. You got to keep people off the bases this weekend. And, you got to be ready to play from where to go. I looked over here at the mini TVs that Torchy has here. Wofford had jumped out on LSU 1-0 in the top of the first, and I'm sure that LSU with its offense will come back and probably win that ball game. That just shows you that the team that the 4th seed or the 3rd seed, which it is in this case, playing 2nd seed LSU, is going to be show up. They're going to throw their best pitcher. You're going to get their best effort. You better be ready to go.
Yep, and this part of the season, the 2nd season, all 4 of these teams can go. They're not, these aren't slouches. They're here for a reason. They just didn't back them. I'm sure that there are a couple of teams that may kind of back their way into the postseason tournament. But as far as some of these smaller schools go, these guys fought their tails off all league long and league tournament to get in, to have a place to get into this tournament. So whenever you have, SEMO or whoever it happens to be, or like Wofford, those smaller schools, they could come up and bite you.
Yeah, the biggest skidder into this tournament was Arkansas, as we've noted. Only 3-7 in their last 10 games. I believe SEMO has won 10 out of their last 12 of their last 14. You've got Louisiana Tech coming in and has been hot down the stretch. Kansas State was hot early and got struggled in the middle of the Big 12 season. They started out 6-1, ended up 15-15. they're not exactly coming in playing their best baseball. So you've got two teams that kind of skidded in, two that are feeling pretty confident about themselves, and we'll talk about it more as we go along. But SEMO is a team that has 100 home runs on the year. They play in smaller ballparks. They play against less pitching than Arkansas has in the SEC, but still 100 home runs is that's a quality number.
It is. And so when you're talking about Arkansas skidding into the postseason, let's look at this for a second. So in May total between the Kentucky, Mississippi State, A&M, SEC tournament, also with that game against Missouri State, Arkansas has given up 74 runs in the month of May. Two of those are unearned, so 72 earned runs and 74 total runs. As a team, they've batted .258 and only produced 5.6 runs per game. So not only are you not scoring enough, you're not scoring a lot, not as much as you were at the first of the season. Your pitching is giving up more runs as well. That's the reason why in the last 25 games, Arkansas is 14-11. And 11 of those 14 losses have came since April 12th against Alabama at Tuscaloosa. Now, let's look at that for just a second. That's kind of where you started to see, and you and I were talking about this, Dudley, where Mason and Brady were starting to lose their control a little bit, and you started to see the uptick in runs on the second and third day. And that's led to Arkansas fans scratching their heads saying, where's this pitching staff at? And also now the bats are also gone too. You're batting .258 in the month of May alone. Whenever you put those two together, that really is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, well, the bats have never truly been there the whole year. It's not been an offensive club, maybe an offensive one, but not an offensive one. At times they have had some big outputs, but those have not been on a consistent basis. You've got another stat that I'm sure you'll bring up there that kind of validates that. But what has happened in this stretch that you've talked about, the pitching was able to overcome a lot of things. I mean, they were just dominant. Best pitching staff in the country, 3 starters, the bullpen, and all that. You have guys that would be starting on some other teams that can't even get on the 27-man roster, at Arkansas for the weekends. And, but that and great defense had kept them, winning ball games. Both of those, pitching and the defense, have slipped a little bit as they've gone down, and they haven't been able to produce enough runs to overcome that. Now, they've made some runs, did both times at the SEC tournament. You look inside those numbers, Peyton Stovall are two of the guys that have been consistent. I don't know that everybody else has been at a level they want them to, whether it be a power output or just getting on base hits, walking, seeing pitches. And I can't tell you again. I've mentioned that you better be ready to play. I'm just going to give you some early scores here. Coastal Carolina, who's a very good baseball team, up 5-0 on Vanderbilt in the bottom of the second. Wofford up now 2-0, bottom of the third against LSU. And you've got Kentucky 3-0 on Western Michigan. Kentucky obviously came up ready to play. Those other two, they better get it going, or you can't lose that first game and realistically think you can come back and win it. I mean, you keep trying, but your pitching runs out. You have to play an extra game. It's so important to win that first game.
It is.
And especially will be for Arkansas. If the game gets rained out the second day, Arkansas would have a day off tomorrow. It seems like from what I'm hearing, because you would have 3 different games that would have to be played, and you can only have the loser of this game today play. You can only have them play 2.
Can't play 3. So
I'm anxious to see what they end up doing with that. We'll just get to the ballpark after this is over with, and we'll stay there till it's taken care of. But it's going to be in a state of flux.
Yeah, and also you'll see there's a possibility you may see where you have a Monday final. I mean, let's face it.
Maybe 2 games Monday, depending on the weather. The Monday, if necessary, game is the one that's scheduled right now. But the weather could really mess it up. And I do know that from my understanding, you cannot play on Tuesday. I mean, there would be a winner declared on Monday if you couldn't play on Monday, which would mean the team that is sitting in the winners bracket without a loss would be declared the champion. That has happened before, and it's my understanding that's still the rule.
Okay. Well, that was my next question. You answered that one. So, because you kind of start to wonder if, okay, so say for instance, the rains, storms do kick up, and there's something happens on Monday. Now, what are we looking at? And so that kind of answers that question perfectly. So
yeah, and that's again, and why these first two games are so important. You get these first two games, you can't let up on the throttle or anything there, or the gas pedal, but you would be in great shape. And if you've won the first two games, you're probably pitching has been really good. It's going to be interesting. A lot of people have speculated this week in the national media with Hagan pitching in the second game, and with him not having thrown too many pitches down the year. Because Van Horn said he wanted him to be ready to push to the limit during the thing. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he either throws a complete game or gets close to one.
Yeah, because I see him being able to go 115, 130 pitches possibly. And I think that's what Dave has been trying to get Hagan worked up to as far as that goes, is saving him for this time of the year. Because let's face it, next weekend, if they get to a super regional, you got Hagan throwing probably on Friday in kind of his normal rotation again, because it's not a double elimination. But how does it work out now if Hagan doesn't throw today? Now you got Mason Molina on the bump, and Hagan throws on Saturday. Hagan's not going to. There's a possibility he may not be available for Sunday, but you'll have Molina available for Sunday.
Yeah, and that it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. I do suspect that Mason will go as long as he can today, and a Geikel will come in. He's been attached at the hip to Hagan in a lot of these games. But again, I stress game one is the biggest win that you've got to have. You got to get that done. And so I'm sure that if Geikel comes in and wants to, and they need him to pitch 3 innings, he'll do that. If they need Christian Fouts for an inning, they'll do that today. Will McIntyre, Gage Wood. It's Johnny Holstaff here early on in these first couple of games. You figure it out once you get later in the tournament, and you figure it out once you have a win or two pocketed.
Because whenever say, for instance, you've got, Mason going today, you've got Hagan going tomorrow. At that point, you're either going to see, it depends on how much Will McIntyre's used. Are you going to start him for a couple of innings, or do you bring Ben Bybee in to start that third game now? Or do you bring Gage Wood in on how much he's been used over the first 2 days? And like you said, it's going to be a piecemeal thing. And I mean, honestly, that third game, for instance, it's going to be basically a TBD. I mean, to be determined who's going to be the third pitcher. But I think you probably are going to be able to see probably Ben Bybee that third game.
Yeah, and you certainly don't want to get into a fourth game. Then you get all kinds of issues. We talked about how the pitching's been good all year, but let's go over people who are not pitching this weekend. Brady Tygart not pitching. Cooper Dawson not pitching this weekend. You've got some guys that haven't really thrown a lot coming down the stretch either. You mentioned the guys that are going to be the key components this weekend, along with Cody Frank, is another guy that will get some time. Parker Cole. They've got enough pitching, but enough pitching can be strained over the course of 4 games. You'd much rather it be 3, and you'd much rather have the third one be in a situation where you're able to use some guys that haven't been used that weekend, or you can bring Geikel back. You can bring apparently Christian Fouts. Coach Van Horn talked yesterday about how he believes he now can use him 2 times in 1 weekend. So I think we may see that happen as well. He seems to have more confidence in him. You look at those stats, man. I look back at the stats. Christian Fouts, 19 appearances, 0.86 ERA.
Ooh, man.
Has just been phenomenal. And you think about it. I didn't realize it was building up that much. I knew he had been pretty locked down lately. You always remember a hit he gave up or a run he gave up, but goodness, there hadn't been many. It's 0.86, and he clearly has worked himself into a high leverage role this weekend.
Yeah, and we talked about pitching heavy. And I want to talk about the outfield for just a few minutes because it seems like there's kind of this rotating door between Ross Lovich, Will Edmondson, um, Kendall Diggs, Jason Jones. Also, oh goodness, the last guy. I can't remember off the top of my head now. It just I had
Center
it and just
fielder Ty
blanked on me.
Wilmsmeyer. Ty Wilmsmeyer.
Ty Wilmsmeyer, and did Dave
Peyton
talk
Holt.
and Peyton Holt? So is it going to be just who has the hottest bat and have to interchange, or didn't perform in game one, we're going to switch it up in game two? I mean, what's Dave kind of thinking at this point?
Well, I believe it's Tom Murphy, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, who pointed out he's had 58 different lineups this year.
Oh, man.
There hasn't been a set one. He has had some guys that he feels good about. He did mention in his Monday press conference right after the selection show was made that he has a lineup ready to go against a right-hander, a lineup ready to go against a left-hander. He knows who he's going to play. So he's got in his mind a set lineup. With all those 58 lineups, I couldn't tell you what it would be. But I would think that Peyton Holt's going to be in the lineup in the outfield. Kendall Diggs is going to be in the lineup in the outfield, whether he bats first or not. And we talked about that last week. It did seem like Coach Van Horn answered the question yesterday if he was just trying to get him more at bats. It wasn't something that he saw as a long-term fix. He was trying to get him going. I wish the kid well. It would be wonderful for him and his family with what he's gone through this year. If he could have a good regional and this bring him into the postseason, it would bring a lot of relief to him and bring a lot of relief to Arkansas. And Arkansas would be a much better baseball team if he's in that lineup and being an impact batter. He hit .299 last year, had 16 home runs, 51 RBIs. That was a team leading 51 RBIs. This year, 6 home runs, 38 RBIs, which is still a nice total.
It is.
When you look at it, but he's hit like 221. And those are just not the numbers you expected out of him. He talked yesterday about how the initial injury happened when he made that jumbled slide into second base and hurt his shoulder. And I think everybody in the ballpark went, uh-oh, when he did that. And that had lingered. He says that it's the best he's felt all year. His teammates, his coaches have rallied around him. His family has rallied around him. So let's see if he can flip that switch and get it going this weekend. And I do think Coach Van Horn pointed out one other thing about Kendall that I think, I had kind of noticed a little bit is that he's gotten a lot of walks this year, but he's taken way too many pitches that he would have hammered in previous years. So he's got to be aggressive this weekend. Got to stay, got to keep your eye in the zone. Got to be okay, but he's got to be ready to go. You got to be aggressive. I mean, that was one of the things down at the SEC tournament. They just watched strikes. They watched too many strikes, and
it was so frustrating.
And you saw the teams that were being aggressive, going after the first good pitch they saw down there. South Carolina, LSU, Kentucky, others. They were the ones that had to sit.
Yeah, and I think a couple of keys for me for Arkansas to be successful this weekend. First off, there's no place like home. We know the record.
33-3.
We know the record, and it's phenomenal. But what they have to do this weekend to carry them through the weekend is, one, quality at bats. They cannot see third strikes. If they see third strikes, it would not surprise me if Dave Van Horn has a conversation with them. If it happens again, he's going to find somebody's going to get the lumber off their shoulder or the aluminum off their shoulder and get the bat through the zone at least. Give themselves a chance. Make the fielders make the mistakes. I'll talk to Jay Johnson. He said good teams force teams into making mistakes because of how well they've performed in the past. Arkansas has not performed well here in the last 25 games. So now some of these teams are going to be extremely aggressive towards them at the plate. So that's what Arkansas has to look out for, not only pitching but also batting. So they have to have quality at bats. And second is, in the field, they cannot have any lapses in concentration. They cannot make any errors, and they have to be on their A game, and they have to be sharp. Because whenever you start giving up free passes and then you have errors, that's whenever you start seeing crooked numbers on the scoreboard. That will be Arkansas has to eliminate that this weekend.
Yeah, and you were talking about the outfield. I wanted to go back and make a point there. Jason Jones, we all know, can run into a pitch and change a game, but he hadn't run into enough of them this year. There's been too many strikeouts. Will Edmondson had a good SEC tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him out there, in left field maybe this weekend. Peyton Holt's going to be in center. I think we're pretty much locked that down unless they decide to put him in center and put him in left and put Wilmsmeyer in center for defense's purposes. I'm not sure with the way this lineup has been hitting and the uncertainty of the deal that you turn to a defensive lineup in game one. You might in game two, but not in game one.
Not in game one. They have to set the tone. And I know that's been the message across the club, is that the way we come out in game one is going to set us up for the rest of the weekend, because nobody wants to see a TCU happening again like what happened last year. Arkansas came out and they were a little timid, and then they got their brains beat in. Let's face it.
Yeah, no excuses this season. They are rested. The arms are fresh. For the most part, they're healthy. Obviously, Brady Tygart's not going to be there this weekend, and we mentioned Cooper Dawson is out. But for the most part, they are healthy, rested, and should be ready to play. Anything less than getting out of this regional, even though they've had a great year in which they've won the SEC Western Division and been a top 5 team all year, anything less than getting out of the regional will be a failure this weekend. And that's not me. I mean, that is my opinion, but I also think listening to the players, listening to the coaches yesterday, this is not what the Arkansas program is made for, losing in a regional at home, even though it has happened.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to finish out with Coach Neighbors and some additions that he's had now to the women's Razorback basketball team. And we'll be back here in just a moment here live at Torchys and Rogers. Hey, it's Dudley and Jason from Hogville.net's Arkansas Diamond Report. If you're looking for some great tacos and a place to call the hogs, Torchys is the place. We will air the Arkansas Diamond Report every Friday at 11:30 a.m. at the Rogers location until the end of the baseball season. Join us for some damn good tacos and baseball. Go Hogs! All right, folks. Yeah, I got that Tokyo Drifter taco up here for you all. That's their taco of the month. Today is the last day for the Tokyo Drifter. And make sure to come up here, check out the full-service bar. It's getting warm out, so make sure to grab a margarita or a beer at the bar. Grab some tacos, some chips and queso. And Dudley, are you going to – you've had the tour of tacos this whole entire month of May. Is there anything new for today?
Not sure. I'm going to look over the menu again. We've now been here so many times that I'm starting to double back a little bit. I'm a big fan of the breakfast tacos they have, but I also like the lunch tacos that they have. And I guess you can have any of those tacos at any point, But I think I'm going to look at the menu again today before we make the decision. I have come recently with my mind made up, but we're gonna look it over today. And speaking of lunch, Wofford 2-0 over LSU, about to head to the 5th.
Jimmy Christmas.
Coastal Carolina 5-0, top of the 3rd over Vanderbilt again, and Kentucky up 3-0 in the bottom of the 3rd. Those are your early SEC scores in the NCAA tournament.
Yep, and you thought that Tim Corbin and Vanderbilt were kind of rolling. You kind of thought that they might be that team that might get out of the Clemson regional, but I don't know if that's going to happen. If that does happen, they're going to have a long road to hoe if they're going to get out of that.
Well, Coastal Carolina wanted a higher seed. They believe they were a better team than what the NCAA did. They clearly are playing with a a mindset to be aggressive early. And again, I can't. This first pitching game, be it Arkansas, be it any of these other SEC teams, you got to be go. That's why I personally might have thrown Hagen Smith, but as I've said earlier, you got to have big ones to
Yeah.
pull this off. And Dave Van Horn has a sparkling resume, more trips to the College World Series than any active coach right now in college baseball. He knows what he's doing. Mason Molina, he's put
Yep.
it in your hands, man. He's put it in your hands. And maybe these last two outings with five scoreless innings, I mean, he's ready to get back on the horse. And he is a guy that has pitched in these situations, having done so at Texas Tech. And a lot of people forget he was their ace down there.
Yep, he was. He is. And so we'll have to see what happens today. First pitch is at 2:00, and we'll have to hopefully, fingers crossed, because we got rain moving in. So let's move to Mike Neighbors for just a second. He just signed the 2024 JUCO Player of the Year. Tell me a little bit more about this player that he's got coming in, because I mean, we've heard a little bit about it, but I think you got a little bit more than some people might know.
Yeah, Kiki Smith is a 5'7" guard. She's originally from Topeka, Kansas. As you said, she led her team to she's a junior college player of the year. She led her team, Hudson Community College there in Kansas, to a 37-0 record this year, the national championship. She was the key player on that team. Arkansas and Texas A&M were her final two, although she had a lot of other offers. I think this is a great get by Coach Neighbors. I've been joking with him. This does not add to his international lineup that he has now. I think there's going to be five different countries represented. Maybe it's six different countries represented on there now. He's gone out. He's gotten some height. Three of them, I think, are 6'4", 6'2", 6'2". The others are guards. We know Izzy Higginbottom, the former Batesville star who started at Missouri, then played at Arkansas State, is finally going to be here this year. He has revamped the roster. How's it going to turn out? We'll see. Obviously, there were some issues with last year's team. I think that's pretty clear now that that group basically didn't like each other. It wasn't a great locker room. They've been vocal about that on social media as they've gone through their different destinations. The last one, Miriam Dowda, ending up in South Carolina. She's a great young lady. Wish her well there.
Yes.
And, obviously Sailor Poffenberger went back home closer to Maryland.
Yeah.
Samara Spencer, Tennessee. And I guess it was Talia went to LSU.
Talia went to Auburn, and then yes, and then Jersey going to LSU.
Yes. So that's that was probably what you thought your starting five would be last year. At least your 5 or 6, and it's a revamping. He and I have talked about this on the record, off the record. He realizes people are upset. 2 NCAA tournament trips in 7 years. That is not the standard that he and Casey Plum, set at Washington, and not what he wanted to bring here. It's a big year for him. He realizes this. I will say he welcomes the criticism because they're paying attention to the sport more now.
Yep.
And that's it's you can't be upset if you're getting the same type heat as men's coaches, and you're getting the same type of publicity, if not more now.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that it is the Caitlin Clark effect, because it's bringing more eyes to the women's sports, and they should have been there before, but now they are, and that's great, because the more eyes, the more revenue that they're able to bring in. Also, being able to highlight these players, these women that do such a great job. But the thing is that that's the other side of the sword, is that if you're not performing, you're catching the smoke. And if you're not if you're not up to that par, I mean, there's going to be a change.
Yeah, I mean and he realizes that there I give him the break for last year in some ways. Still, you're the head of the ship, and everything flows down and all that. So you're responsible for it. But at the same time, there were so many things that happened during the season, before the season with Jersey. It was not the team that he thought he put out there on the floor. Still, when you put that team out there on the floor, they didn't live up to the expectations that he set, that they set. And, he rightfully so. There are valid criticisms about the last season, about the coaching staff. Obviously, Nick Bradford has come in, and will be apparently he was real big in the Kiki Smith recruitment. So, anxious to see what it's going to look like next year, because basically it's a whole new thing. And speaking of that, my God, the NIL, the transfer portal. Now, yesterday we have a decision by the NCAA that it doesn't matter how many times you've transferred, how many places you've transferred. Now you can just up and go again. And those of you who weren't granted waivers, guess what? We've decided to retroactively say you can do that. So
Come on in.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, having a brain freeze there all of a sudden. The big fellow, Connor Vanover, was denied a waiver when he wanted to play here at Arkansas. He had to sit out a year. He's eligible for another year if he wants to. I think that would be maybe 4 or 5 schools in 5 or 6 years.
It's
just
Cal, Arkansas, Tulsa, Missouri. That's 4. And so then that would be his 5th if he goes somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's nuts. And I realize they're doing all this because different state governments and the federal government are threatening to sue them. But, man, you got to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
I sure as hell wouldn't want to be a college coach right now with all the rules that are in place.
And ultimately, I feel like some of what they were going after as far as the NCAA goes was they're trying to grant players the autonomy that coaches have too, so that if they they get a better offer somewhere else, they can go wherever they want to. And now, I mean, I know that the NCAA has tried to kind of limit that in a way, but now it's just like, you know what? We have too many headaches. There's too many things going on. We've stretched ourselves too thin as far as litigation goes. And now it's easier just to give them what they want so they don't say anything else and just let them have their cake and eat it too.
And the NCAA, you brought this on yourself. By the way, you didn't have a laid out good plan at what you were trying to institute. It's been the wild, wild west. You cower anytime anybody threatens a lawsuit. It's to me, it's like when you're parenting and your kid says, well, if you don't do this, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, you are. You plan on eating and all this. I mean, there are responsibilities. You've got to parent your organization the same way you parent your kids. There's got to be discipline. There's got to be rules in place. Some of them, at least. I don't think my kids would tell you I was overly stringent, but we had rules. You followed the rules. If you didn't follow the rules, there was a problem.
Yeah, and that's what I think now is that since there's no consequences, like you said, it's going to be even worse, I think. But So really quick, Leslie Byram wanted to know why Arkansas is playing at 2. Dave chose that time. They had the choice. That was the time that Dave wanted to get this game in. Gives them a little bit more rest on Saturday. So that was the reason why they had picked that.
He had several reasons. That was one. Number one, he knew about the weather, and he wanted to make sure he got his game in instead of having to play twice on Saturday.
And possibly Sunday too.
Yeah, which may be the case. Also, if you win the ball game, you've got downtime from 5 o'clock this afternoon till 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Then tomorrow night's game, if you win the ball game, is at 8 o'clock, or at least it's scheduled for 8 o'clock. Maybe Sunday now. You don't want to be sitting around at a ballpark, letting it rain and trying to figure it out. So, he's done this before, and he made clear he realizes it's not the best thing for the fans. He's got to win baseball games, and he's got to do what he thinks is best for his baseball team, and that's his situation. That's his thought, and more oftentimes than not, his thoughts have turned out right.
Yep. So, just wanted to put that out there for Leslie and get that taken care of. So, before we wrap up here again, at the first of the show, we had talked about the disaster relief here at Rogers. If you are wanting to make a donation, stop by Rogers High School Gymnasium. You can drop off a lot, anything that they are needing as far as like laundry pods, non-perishable food items, toiletries. Those are big items that they need. They will be serving lunch and breakfast tomorrow between 10 and 2. And supply pickup tomorrow is from 10 to 2. And then they'll be serving meals from 11 to 1 at the RHS cafeteria. And then next week, you'll be able to go, you can pick up breakfast at 8 a.m. and lunch at noon, Monday through Friday, next week at RHS. Tonight is the last night that they are able to house folks that have been displaced by the tornado. Since it is considered a disaster relief area, they are not able to hold anybody over a week. So that's why they're having to try to find places for folks to stay. I know that there was a couple of women's shelters also that are displaced, and they're having to kind of mix and match that too as well. So if there's anything that you guys can do to help, you can also go onto rogerschools.net, and there's different parts on the website that you can go and either volunteer, donate, whatever. You can find those areas. And if you just want to just show up and donate your time, they would love to have that too. You can just walk into the foyer right there at the gymnasium. They'll get you set up, you sign in, and they're going to put you to work because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And so make sure to, if you're not able to, at least keep these folks in your thoughts and prayers as Rogers starts to rebuild again.
Yeah, and great effort again by the community in a bad situation. And thank you for what you did and all the others that have been out here taking care of stuff.
Yep. Well, for Dudley and myself, Jason here at Torchys Live in Rogers, I want to thank you all for jumping on with us today. Again, Arkansas, 2 p.m. this afternoon. Fingers crossed, first pitch. And will there be baseball next Friday? That is the question.
We'll see.
Because if it's not, then I don't know what it looks like for us as well. So as far as we are going to do an end of season wrap up show as well. But as far as
I do think they're going to get through that 33-3 record at home. And there's Kansas State is a quality ball club. Louisiana Tech is a really good ball club, and certainly they believe they're going to come out of this regional and have the pitching. And I'm sure that, even though SEMO has not won a game in an NCAA regional in the last few years, they have familiarity. They have some guys who have played here before. In fact, there's some comfortability there. I think Arkansas gets through, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. And it's so key with Mason Molina's start today.
Yep, it is. All right, well, for Dudley, myself, Jason, here live at Torchys, I want to thank you all for jumping on with us today. And make sure to come over to Torchys here in Rogers or off of MLK in Fayetteville, just right down the road from Baum-Walker Stadium. Today is the last day for the Tokyo Drifter Taco, their taco of the month. Tomorrow, they'll have a different one. So stop by there, too, as well, and see which one that will be next. So for Dudley, myself, Jason, I want to thank you all for jumping on with us today, and go Hogs.
Hey, it's Dudley and Jason from Hogville.net's Arkansas Diamond Report. If you're looking for some great tacos and a place to call the Hogs, Torchys is the place. We will air the Arkansas Diamond Report every Friday at 11:30 a.m. at the Rogers location until the end of the baseball season. Join us for some damn good tacos and baseball. Go Hogs!